So, what if I told you there's a rule, a kind of mindset that separates the good from the truly, truly legendary? And it's not about talent or luck or even perfect practice. Nope. It's about building an unbreakable fortress inside your own head, an architecture for a mind that can withstand any pressure, any pain, anything. This is what we're calling the Tiger Rule. And today we're going to break down how Tiger Woods used it to basically conquer the world, and more importantly, how you can use its principles to master your own. Just think about what that really means for a second. It's a total rejection of every excuse you could ever make. It's a declaration that waiting for the perfect conditions, the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, the perfect opportunity, it's a trap. It's just a fancy way of procrastinating that keeps us from doing the real work. The greatest people don't wait for the sun to come out. They learn how to master the storm. They actually find their advantage in the chaos that sends everybody else running for cover. And the story of how Tiger Woods learned this lesson, well, the moment his entire philosophy was put to the ultimate test, that's the key to unlocking this whole thing. To really get this role, we have to go back to a single legendary moment in sports history. A moment where the physical body was completely, utterly broken, but the will was absolute. We are talking about the 2008 US Open. Now, this wasn't just another golf tournament. This was a live, public demonstration of a mind that had been forged in fire for decades. This was the final exam for a philosophy built on ignoring pain and mastering your internal world. Okay, so picture the scene. Torrey Pines, a notoriously tough course right on the cliffs of Southern California. The stakes? It's the US Open, one of the 4 biggest championships in golf. Famous for its brutal conditions that just test every single part of a player's game. The pressure is already off the charts. But for Tiger in 2008, the tough course and the weight of expectation, that was the easy part. The real battle, the one nobody could see, was happening inside his own body. And let's be crystal clear about this. This was not a minor tweak, not a strain, not a sprain. We are talking about 2 stress fractures in his left tibia. His shin bone was literally broken. His own doctors told him, point blank, do not play. You risk permanent career-ending damage. Every single step, every pivot on that leg needed for a golf swing sent these shockwaves of agony right up his leg. You could see it on TV, the grimaces, the winces after every shot. The world saw the pain, but they had no idea what the strategy was behind it. And if a broken leg wasn't bad enough, get this. He was also playing on a completely torn ACL in that exact same knee. Now, think about the physics of a golf swing for a second. You need a stable base, right? A planted left leg to pivot against with incredible force. His wasn't just broken, it was also completely unstable at the knee. I mean, the bone was literally grinding against itself with every single movement. Physically, he wasn't just compromised, he was a walking mechanical impossibility. By any logical, medical, or athletic standard, he should have been defeated before he even hit his first tee shot. And right here, this is where the story turns from just a tale of endurance into one of profound strategy. Because in the face of this impossible physical pain, Tiger was seen on camera, smiling. And it wasn't a pained grimace. It was this look of grim satisfaction. So why? Why would he be smiling? Because he knew something that his competitors and the millions watching at home didn't. He understood that his pain, which was so obvious to everyone, was actually a strategic weapon. He had been training for this exact moment of brokenness his entire life. He wasn't just enduring the pain, he was using it as a signal to focus deeper, to lock in even harder. So this is the core question, isn't it? What we saw at Torrey Pines wasn't just some macho toughness. It was a systematic exercise in what you might call mental physics. This idea that your internal states can be manipulated and controlled with the same precision as physical laws. He weaponized his own physical weakness. The pain wasn't a bug, it was a feature. It was a trigger that activated an even deeper state of focus. But how on earth do you learn to do that? Well, the answer doesn't start on a golf course in 2008. It starts decades earlier, with his father, a Green Beret, who believed that to forge an unbreakable mind, you first have to systematically try to break it. To understand the man, you have to understand the training. See, before he was a global icon, Tiger was a military kid being raised in a world that wasn't really ready for him. And that legendary mindset, it wasn't born in some sports psychology lab with therapists and positive affirmations. No, it was forged through a deliberate and often brutal process of psychological sabotage, a protocol designed and run by his own father, Earl Woods. This slide right here really captures the central conflict of his entire childhood. On the one hand, his insane talent made him an insider. Everyone in the golf world knew this kid was a prodigy, a once-in-a-generation player. But on the other hand, the rigid, exclusive culture of golf at the time made him a constant outsider. He was denied entry to clubhouses. He had to endure these silent, cold stares on the practice range. And he had to navigate all the unspoken rules of a world that just didn't look like him. And this constant tension between being celebrated for his skill and rejected for his identity, that became the furnace where his internal shield was forged. His father, Earl, who was a former Green Beret from the Vietnam War, applied what could be called Vietnamese jungle logic to his son's golf training. And this logic says that in a chaotic environment, you can't control the distractions, you can only control your reaction to them. So the training wasn't about perfecting a swing in a quiet bubble, it was about perfecting focus under fire. And this wasn't random cruelty, it was a calculated, systematic protocol. His dad would jingle coins in his backswing, he'd drop a heavy golf bag right as Tiger was about to hit the ball. The whole point was to make any distraction on a real golf course, a camera click, a shout from the crowd, feel like absolute, total silence by comparison. It forced him to build a shield not around his body, but deep inside his own mind. And this quote right here, this is the core lesson that came out of all that sabotage. Through those years of crazy training, he came to understand a fundamental truth. Relying on external conditions is, as the source puts it, a documented disease of the mediocre. Blaming the wind, the noise, or the pressure, it's an act of surrendering your own power. It's admitting that you are a victim of your circumstances. This training flipped that script completely. The goal was never to find a quiet place to play golf. The goal was to become so internally quiet that the external world, in all its chaos, simply stopped mattering. So out of this really unique and demanding childhood, a clear, actionable philosophy started to form. And it wasn't just some vague idea of being tough. No, it was a concrete set of rules for mastering his internal world, no matter what the external world threw at him. This is where we shift from the origin story into the core principles of what we're calling the Tiger Rule. Okay, the first core principle is something called environmental irrelevance. Let's really break this down because it's a pretty radical idea. It's the belief that external factors, the wind, the rain, the crowd noise, the pressure of a major championship, they aren't active forces. They're just neutral data points. They only get power if you give it to them with your attention. For Tiger, the only reality that mattered was his internal state of complete absorption, what athletes call the zone. If he was in the zone, everything outside of it was just irrelevant static, like a radio tuned to the wrong frequency. This quote just cuts right to the heart of it. Blame is fundamentally a release of responsibility. The exact moment you say, "the wind pushed my shot," or "that noise distracted me," you have just voluntarily handed your power over to an outside force. You've admitted that something else is in control, not you. Tiger's philosophy was a militant commitment to keeping 100% of that power, 100% of that control, all the time. By refusing to even acknowledge any external force as a valid excuse, he made sure that every outcome, good or bad, was entirely his own. And that commitment to total responsibility leads us right to the second core concept, mental sovereignty. Now, this is crucial. It's not a passive state of just feeling focused. It is an active, deliberate strategy. It's the conscious choice to build an insulating wall around your mind and stay completely locked into your process, your routine, your plan, and ignore everything else. You stay inside that mental fortress, patiently running your process over and over with the supreme confidence that if you just keep doing that, the result you want has to happen. It becomes an undeniable consequence of your focus. But look, a philosophy is just a bunch of nice ideas unless it's backed up by actual practice. Willpower alone is going to fail you under pressure. So how did Tiger turn these abstract ideas of irrelevance and sovereignty into a concrete, repeatable system he could use under the most intense pressure imaginable? Well, he didn't just rely on being tough. He built a system of habits, a protocol he could trust when everything else was falling apart. This slide breaks down maybe the most critical part of his entire system, his famous pre-shot routine. Now, to you and me watching, it just looked like a few waggles and a practice swing, but in reality, it was a precise 4-step protocol. Step 1 was the visual audit. He would literally see the physics of the shot in his mind's eye first, the exact flight path, the bounce, the final roll. It was a complete mental simulation. Step 2, narrative clarity. Once he saw that perfect shot, he committed to it. That mental movie became the only story of what was about to happen. No room for doubt, no plan B. Step 3, execution. With that mental picture so vivid and clear, his body wasn't thinking, it was just reacting. It was just carrying out the detailed instructions it had already been given. And finally, step 4, dismantle noise. As he stood over the ball, his focus narrowed intensely on the technical stuff. The club base angle, the swing path. He used his deep technical knowledge like a weapon to override the external pressure and the internal anxiety.
This number right here, 4 a.m., represents another pillar of his system, relentless, preemptive discipline. This was his start time, day in and day out. While his competitors were sound asleep, Tiger's day had already been going for hours. These pre-dawn workouts weren't just about physical fitness. They were a daily ritual of forging his will, of choosing discipline while the rest of the world chose comfort.
Just imagine what those workouts felt like. The pre-dawn quiet. No cameras, no reporters, no crowds, no expectations. Just him, the work, and the profound silence. This is what we call foundational focus. In these quiet, solitary hours, he was building the base layer of his concentration. He was deliberately overtraining his mind for focus, creating a whole new normal. The psychological genius of this is that when the chaos of a major championship finally arrived, with its thousands of screaming fans, it actually felt like a step down in intensity for him, not a step up. The truly hard work, the deep focus, had already been done in the silence of 4 a.m. So what's the ultimate legacy of this whole system? Well, the long-term impact wasn't just a shelf full of trophies, as impressive as that is. By combining this intense mental protocol with elite physical training, he fundamentally changed the blueprint for what it means to be a high-performance athlete. He became the architect of the modern approach to sports. I mean, when you look at the whole arc, the transformation is just staggering. He went from being that invisible boy facing cold stares at segregated country clubs to a global icon who was bigger than his sport. But more than that, he transformed the job description itself, from just golfer to architect of performance. He completely destroyed that old romantic myth that success at the highest level is about innate talent or timing or just getting lucky. He replaced it with a new, much more demanding truth, that real, sustainable success is a product of unvarnished, unrelenting will. His entire career, and especially that win in 2008, stands as the ultimate proof of this idea. Total focus beats perfect conditions, always. And this is where the story pivots from his story to our story. Because these principles of sovereignty and focus, they aren't just for elite athletes competing for millions of dollars. They are a universal blueprint for anyone trying to do deep, meaningful work in a world that is practically designed to distract you. The final step is figuring out how to apply the Tiger Rule to your own challenges, in your own life. So this is the question I want you to genuinely ask yourself right now. What is your jingle in the pocket? What is that specific, predictable distraction that you consistently accept as an excuse? Is it the constant buzz of your phone notifications, the endless stream of email pop-ups? Is it the chatter in your open plan office that you blame for your lack of progress? Or maybe it's just that urge to check social media the second you feel a tiny bit of boredom. What is that external noise that you have, consciously or not, allowed to have power over your focus? The first step is just to name it. And once you've identified it, here's the call to action. Stop waiting for the perfect quiet moment to do your best work. Stop hoping for conditions to be ideal. That's the passive approach. The Tiger Rule demands an active one. Take radical responsibility for your focus. Start building your internal shield, one small act of concentration at a time. Maybe that means putting your phone in another room for just 30 minutes. Maybe it means ignoring email for the first hour of your day. You have to treat your focus not as some fleeting mood, but as a muscle. It only gets stronger when you deliberately train it against resistance. Ultimately, this is the final takeaway of the Tiger Rule. Distractions are a choice. External conditions are always temporary, but your focus, that is a skill, a strategy, and it is the most powerful competitive weapon you will ever have. The truth of what you are truly capable of isn't found in your innate talent or your available resources. It is found in the depth and the quality of your focus. Your will is the code that writes the story of your own greatness.